Thank you for joining us on History FM Radio on LiveParaNormal.com and History FM. From paranormal to the unexplained history, it all happens here. Looking to enhance your radio experience? Participate in live interactive chat 24/7 with our radio show hosts and other like-minded people on www.liveparanormal.com, the only interactive social chat room supported by full interactive media. Stop by now and join in on the fun.
Hi, this is my paranormal experience. This is Vu.
And I'm Niki.
This week we have the host from Darkness Radio, Mr. Dave Schrader. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, not a problem. Thank you for asking.
So you've been a busy guy. You've got Coast to Coast tonight.
Yeah, been a hectic weekend, but all looks good.
Awesome.
So what got you into the paranormal field and like radio and all?
Well, it's kind of a weird deal. A lot of people get into the paranormal field. I think the paranormal's been chasing me down my whole life. I've had ghostly encounters when I was a kid all the way till adulthood. I saw Bigfoot when I was about 11 or 12 in Foley, Alabama. I've seen UFOs. So I think I didn't have much of a choice. It seems it was in my destiny to keep investigating and learn more about it because it seemed to be around me all the time.
Wow, that's crazy. I don't know what I'd do if I saw a UFO.
Yeah, just lots of weird stuff going on throughout my entire life, so it makes it kind of fun to, have these different experiences, and something some people may take for granted. I'm always thrilled with when weird stuff happens, so I can try to get to the answers, understand what's going on with it all.
So what would you say was how did you get started with Darkness Radio though? Like, was that what you always wanted to do, or how?
We did college radio together, Tim and I, at KQAL 89.5 FM in Winona, Minnesota. And worked in radio together for a couple of years there. And I loved it. I fell in love with radio. Unfortunately, in radio, there's not a whole lot of money to be made. So I went into the real world and worked in sales. Tim stayed in radio. And lo and behold, 20-some years later, he was working for a station, and they said, hey, we have an hour to fill on Sunday nights. Do you want to do a show? And Tim called me up, and he's like, what do you think about doing a radio show together again? I said, yeah, that sounds great. What are we going to do? And he said, well, they want us to fill an hour on Sunday nights from 11 to midnight. I said, okay. He goes, do you have any ideas on what you'd like to do? I said, yeah, why don't we do a paranormal show? He said, aside from Coast to Coast, there's really nothing else out there that I'm aware of. So we focused on that, and the program director said, well, what are you going to do? Who are you going to talk to? And our first guest was Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters. Our second guest, I think, was John Zaffis, and then Rosemary Ellen Guiley. And, we just kind of were off and running with all the big names in the field. And we were on for about a month and a half at 1 hour a night. They had such a great response. They moved us to 2 hours a night on Sundays. And that's kind of where we sat for a number, about 2.5, 3 years doing that. And then we eventually got picked up by the station we're on now, and they moved us to Saturday and Sunday nights, and then extended us out to Monday to Friday nights, and here we sit almost 9 years into the radio show and having a great time with it.
Yeah, you guys went to 3 hours. How is that?
It's a challenge, to come up with enough content and have some fun with it, but we enjoy it. It's part of the challenge, and when you get 3 hours a night, it gives you a little bit more chance to go a little bit more in depth into the interviews, and maybe get to the points that we would have missed had we just done an hour or two a night. Because when we started on Monday through Friday, we were only doing 11 to midnight again. Then they slowly worked us in about 2 years ago to 10 to midnight. And then this last year, they moved us into 9 to midnight. So it's been a lot of fun. It's just, it's a learning curve. Every time we get an extra batch of time to add to it, we just try to find interesting ways.
Well, I have to say, I know I speak for Vu and myself. We listen every night, and you do an excellent job at it. There's definitely don't seem to have a problem filling your time, and it's always interesting. And even the shows on UFOs and stuff, because that's not really my cup of tea. But you guys have a spin on it that kind of gets my interest tweaked, whereas all the other stuff on UFOs I'm usually not into. So, mad props for that.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and when you kind of live your passion, you get to do cool stuff, and great doors open up for you. So we've had a chance to talk to a lot of amazing people, and a lot of people I've really looked up to my whole life, and researchers, and we were one of the last interviews Hans Holzer did. So that was really the last radio interview he ever did. I think we're the last interview he ever did. Period. And then we've had a chance to talk to Dr. William Roll before he passed away, and We've talked to quite a few people throughout the field. Dan Aykroyd has been a big favorite of ours. We've had him on a couple times during the course of our career, and he's always been a real gentleman and great information. He's got such a great perspective on the paranormal.
Definitely. You've had a chance to talk to everyone who they're in my dream book of, people to even, come in contact with, let alone have a conversation or an interview with. So, yeah, little jealous. Okay, a lot jealous.
Yeah, it was fun. We also got to talk to Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, and chat with him about his thoughts on the paranormal and on horror movies in general. And it's kind of a cool opportunity. Like I said, there's a lot of neat people out there that have a different perspective on the paranormal, and just getting to listen to their ideas and thoughts and why we do what we do, how we live our lives, and what we can accomplish. It's a pretty amazing situation.
Definitely.
Are you there? It's dead quiet on my end.
Sorry. What would you say would be your best paranormal experience? This is a question from Raven.
Well, let's see, best. It depends on what you're talking about. My most vivid was having I had a dream visitation with my grandfather after he died that really helped shape a lot of my perspective on death. And that was a beautiful moment. My grandmother was my first foray into the paranormal. She used to visit me after she passed away when I was about 3 years old. And then about 25 years ago, when my oldest son was born, pardon me, I'm fighting a flu bug here, so I don't mean to sound all congested on you. This is brutal. But about 25 years ago, when my oldest son was born, he was born at home. And we had a midwife, friends and family that were there to witness the birth. And before the labor really went hard, the midwife realized that the baby was breech. And she had delivered hundreds of breech babies and had no problem with it. So we trusted her, and she said, we're going to use gravity to help deliver this baby. So what that meant is I had to stand up, put my arms out, and she would put her back against my chest, put her arms over my arms, and then drop her weight and push to use gravity to pull that baby out quicker. And we'd gotten into a pretty interesting rhythm and sync of her dropping into these big contractions, and I'd lock down and then relax in between contractions. Now, I had just had major knee surgery the month before, so as long as I was prepared, I was able to lock down and hold her. And we came out of a massive contraction, and she took a deep breath and relaxed, and I relaxed, and then she dropped into another one, and I started to fall backwards. Now, here I am falling backwards with a very pregnant girlfriend in my arms, and I stopped, and it felt as though hands grabbed me from underneath my armpits and stood me back up. And mind you, this was in a room full of people, and, I was just so focused on getting that baby out of there and making sure everything was fine. Well, lo and behold, the baby's finally born, and everything turns out okay. And my mom, who was there, she's a nurse for Schrader's Children's Hospital, and they work with the spinal cord pretty much, and she knows how the back works and how everything. And she said, I got to ask you something. You started to fall backwards. How did you stop yourself? And I said, I don't know. I guess my muscles tightened up. I said, it almost felt like hands grabbed me underneath my armpits and pushed me back up. She said, that is what happened. We could see you lift up as though somebody was picking you back up and standing you up straight. And then she said, did you smell anything strange? And I said, well, Mom, I was holding a pregnant woman giving birth to my son. I smelled a lot of strange things. And she started laughing. She goes, no, did you smell like a perfume? And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I smelled kind of like lilacs or something. She goes, yeah, that was your grandmother's perfume. So, we all kind of do our little oohs and ahs. And I go out to the living room, and my aunt is out there bawling like a baby and all excited. She got to be there for the birth. And then she asked me the same set of questions and then just asked me if I could smell the perfume. And I said, yeah. She goes, that was your grandma's perfume. So, I had 3 of us all experience it. Everybody could smell the perfume, but it meant something to the 3 of us. So that was kind of a neat little deal. That was one of my favorite experiences with the paranormal. Seeing my first shadow person, full-on shadow person at Waverly Hills Sanitarium that walked right through me. That was, so those would be 2 of my favorites. Seeing the UFOs at the SETI Ranch in Trout Lake, Washington was astounding. That's life-changing because it just shifts your whole paradigm to realize just how small and insignificant we are, because there are things that are around us that we have no idea about yet. No comprehension, no real comprehension of. So it's pretty fascinating, just kind of how this all goes down. So those are like some of my biggest. So the interaction with my grandmother, the interaction with my grandfather, the shadow person at Waverly Hills, and the UFO experience in Trout Lake. We actually filmed an episode of Paranormal State with Ryan Buell and the gang. I took them up to that SETI Ranch. I think it was at the end of their 2nd season. You can find that on Netflix, I believe. And had a really great time there and got to show it off and spend some time with that. And here it is on camera. We're having all these weird experiences in the sky. And, we caught it on video. So it was a pretty exciting opportunity.
I'm very familiar with that episode. That was very neat. And see, like I said, UFOs aren't my thing, but I think that, that definitely helped me understand a little bit more, because you could just see the look on people's faces who hadn't had the experience before. And
right.
To see that, shock and awe in their face is just absolutely amazing. And by the way, I got chills on the whole, the falling thing. That was deep.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. And,
I haven't had that, like, 3 people be able to witness and all have the same type of experience. You don't hear about that all that often, so that's very, very neat.
Yeah. And there was other people that saw me stand back up, but, the perfume meant nothing to them. And I just assumed at first that somebody had knocked over some perfume. We were having this baby at home when we were in the girls' bedroom, so I just assumed, maybe somebody had knocked something over on a dresser or somebody had perfume themselves up to poke their head in to watch the birth, but it wasn't that. It was definitely something more powerful, and as my mom and I say, they knew their mother's perfume really well.
That's amazing.
We actually there was a similar situation we had just like that when my great nieces were born. It was a very delicate birth for my niece, and they actually smelled my father's cologne in the delivery room.
Oh, that's very cool. It's a nice sense to realize we're not alone, and when my son Nathan was born, he was born many years after my grandfather had passed away, sadly. Maybe about 8 or 9 years after my grandfather died. And Nathan was in the back seat of the car, and he was very little, barely speaking, mama, dada, that's about it. My grandfather had a really unique nickname, and as we were driving, I'm watching him in the rearview mirror, and his head is turned up, and he's looking at something off to his right, and he's talking to it. Blah, 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 blah. And I looked up at him. I said, Nathan, who are you talking to? And he stopped, and he turned, and he looked at the mirror, and then said my grandfather's nickname perfectly. And then he turned and looked back up with this big smile on his face. And I remember saying out at that minute, okay, Grandpa, it's great that you're here visiting it, but if you show up in my rearview mirror, we're going to join you real soon because I'm going to go off the road. So let's not make yourself visible right now. And
that's
it's
like
nice
my
to know.
biggest thing. Yeah, that's my biggest fear is that that's going to be when someone's going to decide to show me the full body apparition in my rear view.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen a few different things, but that would definitely be not a great time to have that experience per se.
No.
Unless we're sitting at a traffic light and I'm stopped.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and even that, really, you don't want to see somebody pop into your back seat either way. But I think that's part of the important thing.
Hit the gas pedal.
Right. You set your intention, and I think ghosts are pretty good. Like, I have rules at my house. People are always, are you afraid the ghosts are going to interact with your kids? And I always say, if there's anybody here, you're welcome to communicate with me, but leave my kids alone and don't bother me in the bathroom. Those are my two rules. I don't want any ghosts in there while I'm pooping or taking a shower. I guess I got some parameters that just don't want to be breached. And leave my kids alone. And I don't have problems with that. My kids really don't have problems with it. I hear other people all the time, I've got an attachment. I brought something home. How do you avoid that? I'm just careful. When you're a paranormal investigator, you got to realize that it's not just about you. And this is an egocentric field. So many people are just thinking they're the bee's knees and that's it, and they're all they have to worry about. Well, you forget that if you don't watch out what you're doing, it's not just you. If you bring some of this crap home with you, it can affect your kids. And you may be all protected up, but if you're not taking care of your family, they'll leech onto your family and mess with them. So I'm very, very cautious so that my kids are protected.
Definitely. Do any of your kids have an interest in the paranormal?
They all have fleeting moments of interest. My two kids that are the most interested are my son Linus, who's about 11 years old, and my daughter Pacey, who's about to become 9 years old. And they're really intrigued by what I do. They both have plans to take over the radio show someday, and they're fascinated. But they're they know to take their time. They're not in any hurry to become big celebrities or paranormal investigators. They want to learn and know what they're doing before they do something stupid.
Definitely a smart decision there. What do you think is the appropriate age to let a child go after their interest in the paranormal? Is there an appropriate age, like range or maturity level? I mean, what is your take on that?
Yeah, age. You can't look at age. Age is a number. And I know that sounds corny, but I know some 13-year-old girls that are more mature than some of the 40-year-old women I know. And same said with, I know some boys that are 12 years old that are, brighter than 40-year-old men. So it just kind of depends on your kid and what the age is. And it's being a good parent and being diligent, knowing what you're doing and what they're dealing with. That's what I think is important. And, I co-wrote a book called A Teen's Guide to Ghost Hunting and the Paranormal. And to me, it was important for this book to be written because, so many people, their training came from watching Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Most Haunted, and that was it. They were missing a lot of the basics of why do we do what we do. So I wanted them to have a resource so that they could learn and educate themselves so it wasn't just all about the thrill of the hunt. They would understand why we do what we do. So I wrote that book, and I took a lot of flack because Jason and Grant said teenagers kids shouldn't ghost hunt. So I guess that's the law because a couple of plumbers told us we shouldn't do it. Well, that's why you should train people because, it's like sex ed. You can teach your kids about sex and tell them why it's important to use birth control, or you can be a grandparent when they're 13. You know what I mean? I like to educate.
No, I didn't even think about that.
You're right, and I want to educate. I want people to know what they're doing, and I want kids to make the right decisions. So we wrote this book, and I wrote it for everybody. Publisher really kind of wanted us to go after the teen demographic because Twilight was hitting pretty big at that time. So I guess sparkling vampires and ghost hunting somehow came hand in hand. But we did that book, and like I said, I've taken my son Linus on a couple of ghost hunts in places I know and I trust that aren't full of dark, brooding, nasty spirits, And I wouldn't take him to a couple of locations because I don't trust what's there. So if you have a good feel for it, you should definitely know the lay of the land before you go there, and or have people that you trust that what's going on there. But if you're bringing your kid to the site of a mass murder or some satanic worship place, then you're kind of looking for a spiritual ass kicking. So I think you should just avoid that at all costs. But again, it's just going to kind of depend on the kid and the kid's maturity level themselves.
I agree. I know it's been, in a group that I'm a part of, it's been a lot of controversy because some of them actually bring their babies in, you know, like the papoose thing, and bring their children investigating. And, you know, there's just that whole, you know, where's the line, you know? And it's hard when you've got people whose views are different. I mean, it's paranormal. I think everyone has, you know, somewhat different views, and what's right and what's wrong are totally different from everybody else, you know. So just proceeding with caution.
Those are probably the parents that are taking their kids in to see horror movies at the age of 5. And, you know, I don't believe in that. I don't think that's a smart move. I don't think kids are mature enough to know the difference between reality and fantasy, and I don't think that's a good plan. Does that mean I think everybody should go to jail that does it? No, but I think you should use your head. And that's what it comes down to in the paranormal field. You should know what you're doing, use your head, and make well-educated decisions, you know? And that's the problem. I'll tell you, the biggest thing, people always ask me, what's the biggest problem with the paranormal field? Problem is the people with lack of common sense. People that just don't think about what they're doing. Instead, they just knee-jerk react because it looks like a cool hobby to have because they watch it on TV. And, you know, to me, that's ridiculous. You know, it's like anything. You wouldn't take a kid mountain climbing that doesn't know what he's doing and doesn't have the right protective gear. You wouldn't take a kid into a race car. So why the hell would you take your kid to deal with this, especially when this is an unknown and we don't really know what's going to happen?
Exactly. Not only that, but there's some adults who really shouldn't even be necessarily going into the field because they see ghost adventures and they think that an investigation is like 42 minutes long and that it's filled with action, and then you actually go on an investigation perhaps with some of these people and you find out that they are flipping out after the first hour where you have no activity at all. Right. Or, you know, they're jumping and screaming and saying that it's a demon.
Right.
And it's a whole other cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your take on everything being a demon in the paranormal?
Oh, obviously. It's all a demon. It's all just
everything.
Ways to trick us and try to eat our soul. You know, do I believe in demons? Yes. Do I believe that there's dark forces out there? Yes. Do I believe that they're everywhere and that everybody should be afraid of everything? No. I think that's what they feed off of. They want us to be fearful all the time. And that's why, like I said, a lot of it is intent. And I don't go into it with the intent of fear. And people will ask me all the time, and I think it's funny. They'll ask me, well, aren't you afraid going to these places? And I said, afraid of what? And they said, the ghosts. And I said, well, that's like asking you if you're afraid when you go to the zoo and see an animal. You're going there looking for these things. Why would I be afraid of it? You know, I hear stories about people being scratched and things happen. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You know, I get a kick out of this, but let's look at a couple of things, okay? I'll get somebody to tell me, oh, I have a demon trying to bother me at night. Why? Because at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll hear a knock, and it'll be like, bang, bang, bang. Okay? Yeah, so it's a demon. So demons just bang 3 times and they leave? I don't know. I remember the old song is knock 3 times on the ceiling if you love me. Was that a demon? No. You know? As a matter of fact, I tell people this. When you think it's something evil, just close your eyes. Now imagine yourself walking up to your friend's front door and it says, doorbell is out, please knock. Reach out your hand and knock on that door. And how do you usually do it? Doot, doot, doot. It's always a set of 3, or you do the doot, 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 right? That's just the way it rolls.
Yeah.
So to jump in and automatically assume because it knocked in 3, it's mocking the Holy Trinity. We all knock in 3. 3 is how we recognize things. That's literally why you see signs that say live, 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 nude, 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 girls, girls, girls. It's to get the attention. Maybe I'm the only one that notices those signs. But anyway, that's what gets the attention.
They have little Mexican women here passing out cards of naked women. That's what they do here.
Yeah, they get your attention, and that's how it all breaks down, is they do it in 3s. So, you know, here's a funny thing. When people tell me, I think I have a demon, I stop them. I said, okay, then you don't have to worry about it. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, if you think you have a demon, you don't have a demon. And they're like, well, you didn't hear anything yet. And I said, sure I did. I heard you say, I think I have a demon. here's the difference, right? I don't think I have children. I know I have children. How do I know? Because they're obnoxious, loud, and crazy, and cuddly, and lovey-dovey, and all over me all the time. So I don't have any doubt that I have children. So it's the same thing with a demon. A demon isn't going to, well, what happened? Well, one of my grandmother's favorite plate, I walked in and it fell off the wall and shattered on the ground, okay? And the demon did it because they knew I loved that plate. And I thought, really? Mm-hmm. So how low are you on the demon scale that, like, your job is to go break plates? Right?
That must be the worst. Right above cleaning toilets.
Yeah, right. What's your name? I'm Larry. I'm the demon of breaking plates, right? I mean, it just sounds ridiculous. Maybe, just maybe, Grandma always hated that stupid plate, but she kept it up because it was a gift from her mother-in-law. And now that she's dead, she just wants that plate dead too. And maybe that's why it got knocked off the wall. Well, but here's the other one. Oh, I got scratched. And, well, how do we know that it's a demon? Ladies, how do we know that it's a demon that scratched us? What is the telltale sign?
I don't know, that it did 3 lines or something.
Oh, 3 lines. You're right. Because we know demons only have 3 fingers, right? How do they make sandwiches without an opposable thumb, right? So here's the deal. It's not a demon, all right? Figure this out. And people tell me, I came out of the shower and I realized I have these 3 claw marks. Or, I woke up this morning and I have these 3 claw marks. Just take your hand and put it on you right now to go to scratch like your chest. You'll realize the only 3 fingers that really hit you are your 3 middle fingers. Your pinky does, but you don't have any weight behind it. And the thumb hits on the side of the skin. It doesn't really hit the nail, unless maybe you're a woman and it's a long, sharp nail. But for the most part, you're only hitting with the 3. So you're going to leave a 3-pronged scratch, and then it vanishes. Well, you know what? I got news for you. That happens every day, 1,000 times a day. You just don't look and notice it. So let's not jump to the idea that it's a demon that scratched you. Now, with that said, I had a weird experience at Camarillo State Hospital. Oh, boy, about 5-6 years ago. I had gone in there with Bill Murphy from the TV show Fact or Faked, and we were filming and doing some stuff, and I went to the restroom, and I came out, and I had this big gouge on the side of my nose, and it was trickling blood. And Bill said, Dave, what happened? I said, what do you mean? He goes, you have a huge scratch on your nose, and you're bleeding. I said, what? We went in and looked in the mirror, and I go, yeah. He goes, let me document that. And I go, Bill, you can't document that because, I don't know, I just went to the bathroom. Maybe I just reached up and scratched or rubbed my eye and didn't realize a piece of sand caught my face. I can't call this paranormal. This is, an accident at best. And they said, okay, all right, I guess that makes sense. So they went and they turned around and they're talking, and I'm sitting there, and then Bill comes over and he goes, okay, we're going to do this next. Holy crap, Dave. And I said, what now? And he goes, you should have let me photograph it. I said, why? He goes, dude, you have nothing on your face right now. I go, what do you mean I got nothing? I have a big scratch. Went in and no, sure enough, I go in the mirror, and there's no scratch, there's no blood, there's nothing. So that was one of the only times. Now, again,
you were also healed.
Right. Now, do I believe that was a demon? No, because why would a demon give me a little scratch on the nose and then heal it, right? I don't know what it was. I can't call it a demon, but people jump to those conclusions because they watch a lot of TV shows and they assume that everything that goes bump in the night must have a malevolent force to it and want to scare us. And I don't think that's the case at all. So that's the long answer to the short question.
Would be a demon.
Right,
I don't
exactly.
want a demon. I'd rather just have some ornery little kid spirit rolling around just causing mischief instead of having a demon. I don't want that.
Right, and I think that's what it is. I think a lot of people mistake a crabby old ghost for being a demon because it did something unpopular. It pulled my hair, okay? How? Like this. Oh, so it pulled 3 strands of your hair. So it's a really weak demon,
But it was free,
that's a
so
wussy demon, right? Yeah, it was definitely a demon because I pulled 3 hairs, which is mocking the Holy Trinity. That's my whole thing. And I know it's not popular with a lot of people, and I get a lot of people that get agitated. And listen, I talk about diabolicals and demons, and we've talked about exorcisms and possessions on our show. And tonight I'm going to do Coast to Coast AM from midnight till 4 a.m. Central, and we're going to talk about demonic imps. And this is something relatively new to me. I don't know, but we're going to hear the story from Chris Fleming and Bill Vale, who have lived through these kind of experiences and attacks, and find out what does that really mean. Is this really going on? And how do we register? Again, don't jump to the conclusion that it's demonic or dark. Here's my point. I think you'll know when you have a demon, and there'll be no second guessing, because when you have a demon, your life is going to be hell constantly. And you're not going to be sleeping because this thing won't let you. It keeps pulling the sheets back off the bed, and it's screaming in your ear or scratching you or pushing you or punching you. That's a demon. Not, oh, I woke up and I had 3 scratches on my leg.
Right. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that demons are blamed for a lot of stuff that is not their, they shouldn't have that on the rap sheet.
Right. Well, you know, and I think people make the connection, too, that, listen, I'm addicted to online porn. Hey, I drink too much. Hey, I do this too much. It must be a demon. A demon's controlling me. No, you're just a weak-willed human being like all of us are, and you do stupid things, and you fall into stupid habits. And you do those habits long enough, and then they become a long-term habit. So I don't believe that we have to pin everything. People want a magic bullet. They want to compartmentalize everything, and they don't want to take responsibility for their stupid actions, so they pin it on demons. And I think that that's a real effect of what happens, too.
Well, I definitely tell everybody, we all have demons. We all have our inner demons, you know, that's our, you know, our personality conflicts and just things that just aren't, you know, happiness. But, yeah, we all have demons. It's just a matter of whether we need to get on Skype and have them taken away or not.
Right, exactly. The Skype
Yes, yes. That was an awesome show. If people haven't listened to that one, they need to. They need to go to Darkness Radio and listen to that in the archive.
Yeah, our show on Thursday. Interesting show, yeah.
Yes, very cool. Now, off the demons and on to haunted. What would be the haunted location that you haven't investigated yet, which you've investigated a lot of different places, but what would be your dream place to investigate that you have yet to visit?
You know, I don't know. I want to find some of these places that are, quote-unquote, so scary they don't let anybody in. I want to go investigate there. You know, I always hear about the hotel with the one room they won't let you into, and then I do a little digging, and you know what the real story is? Oh, we actually had a mold problem in that room, but it's cooler to let people think that there's a ghost, and we don't want people in that room because there's black mold, all right? And or you know, there's a constant leaky pipe, or there's something else. And the problem is a lot of these places will play it up because it's a great story.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
that's why they keep
I've offered to go in. Yeah, I've offered to go in wearing a rebreather mask, and then they're like, well, it's no, we can't let you in there. It's just a dangerous hazard. That's why the room's closed down. So I have yet to find a real place that's so off the charts haunted that I can go in. Now, Waverly Hills Sanitarium has never let me down. Mansfield Penitentiary never let me down. Even the Queen Mary and the Stanley Hotel, there's always something really bizarre that happened at those locations, and the rest have been hit or miss. I may go one trip and nothing happens to me, and the next time I go, and from the minute I get there to the minute I leave, there's something weird going on. You know, I've heard things in my room. I've seen things in my room. I've seen them move around me. I've had a lot of really bizarre experiences that are just really exciting at all these different locations. But where would I want to go? I mean, I'd love to get over to Australia. I'd love to get over. I'm going to Scotland this year. And if any of your listeners are interested in joining me, we have it limited to only 30 people plus myself. And we're going to be going to Scotland and investigating haunted castles, haunted cemeteries. We're even going to make it a visit to Loch Ness. So we've got a lot of cool stuff going on. And you can find information by going to darknessradio.com and click on the events tab. But I want to get over to England. I would love to get into the Tower of London. I would love to get into the catacombs under Paris. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that I'd like to get into. But, you know, no one place jumps out at me above all. Everybody says the Amityville Horror House. And I'm like, you know, I'm so over Amityville. My good friend is Chris Lutz, the youngest boy from the Amityville case. But let's face it, nobody's complained about the house since the Lutz family left. So why would I go in and investigate a house? And I love, you know, Jason and Grant, we're going to go in there and debunk the crap out of that place. Debunk what? Nobody else has complained about it in 40 years. What are you going to debunk? Technically, it's already been debunked.
They're going to bring their demons with them.
Yeah,
they're going to bring their own demons.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, I think a lot of the haunting that took place in Amityville, I think a lot of it had to do with the family, the Lutz family, and I think it was their own demons and what they were dealing with. Although, with that said, there's a fascinating article, and my researchers, because, you know, I work for the Ghost Adventures TV show, and I do research and scouting of locations. Well, one of our researchers did some digging and actually came upon a really cool article. And it was, and I can't remember the year. I want to say it's like 1906 or some stupid year. No, actually, what was it? It was like 1930 something or 1940. And there's an article in the Amityville newspaper, and it's kind of in this like what's going on in our community section, you know. And there's just all these little blurbs like, yeah, you know, hey, Mrs. Johnson won the walnut, you know, pecan pie contest this week. Amityville has just been, you know, recognized as the fourth most hospitable city in the United States. And then there's a deal in there, and I thought it was interesting the way it's written. It's like there is a house in Amityville that is haunted. No one knows quite why, but it just is. And where they explain it, they don't give an address. They don't give an address. But where they explain it is exactly what you would find if you went to the Amityville house. So it's intriguing. Millionaire built this beautiful house there and then let it go in disrepair and refused to move into it. And then they ended up tearing that house down and building another house. So it's just it's a weird situation. But here's an article from 30 or 40 years before the Amityville horror describing an area exactly like where the Amityville house was located and saying this house is haunted. No one knows why, but they do know this for certain. It is haunted. And that's a great little bit of history. When you can find something like that ties you to the story 40 years in advance, and that news article just came out now. You'll never see that in any of the Amityville horror documentaries. You'll never see it in any of the Amityville books. You'll never see it in any of that stuff. And here's an article that had somebody done the research, they would have found that bit. And that, to me, is a more powerful statement. How telling that we're able to say, look at this. This has been around. There's something going on here. But I think it really had a lot more to do with the DeFeo family and the Lutz family. And the tragedy that befell both families, I think, was because of the heels that they were on and the things that the families were involved in. And I think that's part of what caused the problems and why it's never been a problem since.
Oh, I definitely agree. I think that was a lot of family issues that, you know, is something to say about maybe perhaps, you know, the weight of one family's burdens and, you know, troubles left there and then the other family. And, you know, then you can just have a explosion, so to say, of activity. And, you know, things that happened on the land 100 years ago can affect people still. So, you know, who's to say that it wasn't just like, you know, this paranormal explosion, if you will.
Exactly.
But, yeah, it's craziness. So you've kind of hit, like, all of my dream spots, I think, because Waverly's, like, one of my, if I don't go there, I don't know. I'm going to go crazy if I don't get to go there. I'm dying to go there. But I also want to go to the
Waverly's
Island of Dolls.
Oh, yeah, the Island of Dolls. You know, I'd love to go there, but I'm not. I don't know if it's actually haunted or it's just creepy because there's a gadillion doll heads hanging up everywhere.
And it's kind of beachy, right? You know?
Yeah, Josh Gates told me, he said, Dave, I'll tell you this. He goes, I don't know how haunted it was, but it was creepy as hell, and there was a lot of weird stuff going on. So, again, you know, it's what is your perception of reality? And, you know, for everybody that goes out there, if you believe it's haunted, I think you'll have an experience. And I think that's becoming more and more the trend. You know, we're going to talk tonight to the author of a book called E Squared, and she talks about how we can actually manifest reality and change it. And a lot of it is about manipulation and being able to create out of nothing. And I think that that's a lot of what happens. I think that's why some people have a paranormal experience and some people don't. I think it's because they're more prone to that idea and that they're open and make it part of their life and part of their world, whereas other people just don't, and it just will never happen for them.
I agree. Imagination will get you many places.
Yep.
On to another topic. So let's see. What are your thoughts on ParaUnity?
I'm sorry, say again?
What are your thoughts on ParaUnity?
You know, I don't know. It's a beautiful utopian idea. It'll never happen. People are too arrogant. People are too egotistical. I've been hearing them bash the drum for that for 9 years. And, oh, we're so much better because we're for ParaUnity and blah, 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 blah. Go hug a tree. You know, the fact of the matter is people are jackasses and they do stupid things, and people are fighting over the keys to some imagined kingdom all the time. Here's when, you want to know what? This is when science will take us seriously. When Dave's paranormal group goes in and investigates a location, and when we're done, we send an email over to Niki's group, and we say, Niki, go on in and investigate it, and you go in with your group and you investigate it. And then Vu goes in and she investigates and does the show. And then we all get together, the three heads of the teams, and we talk about, here's what we found, here's the evidence we found. And did you find anything similar? Yes, we did, as a matter of fact. Not only did we find something similar, but we were able to debunk that. Oh, okay, great, so let's eliminate that. If you can get 3 to 4 teams that are willing to come together, share the evidence, share the story, and be open to the idea. But the problem is, nobody wants to agree to one single protocol. Although, if your name is Jason and Grant and you say fart 3 times and eat an apple, and that's how you should start an investigation, people will swear that's the only way to do an investigation. It drives me nuts how people just assume that because a couple of plumbers with a hobby set a rule, that that's the rule everybody should go by. And I'm not slamming on Jason and Grant. Understand, I like these guys. But the fact is, I think it's funny how many lemmings are out there in the paranormal field that everything they do and every part of how they investigate is only because that's how their favorite team did it. Look, you can't even get Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures fans to get along half the time because Ghost Adventures is the way to investigate it. Are you crazy? Those guys dress in too tight of T-shirts. You can't trust them. The only guys that know what they're doing are Ghost Hunters. Oh, really? Because there are a couple of plumbers doing it on their part-time. If you're going to trust anybody, it's got to be the kids from Paranormal State because they go to college, and this is what they're doing with their life. Yeah, but they're college students. They're getting drunk and horny all the time. The only one you can trust are those people from England on Most Haunted because they take this seriously. Really? Because I keep finding video footage of them faking their evidence. You know, there's such a battle between what to watch, who to do, what to do, where to do it, how to do it, what's the proper protocol. Nobody's ever going to come together and just decide that it's going to go. Science is never going to take most of this stuff seriously. And truthfully, I believe science already took all this very seriously. I think they've already done their testing. I think they know a lot more than they're ever going to tell us about ghosts, aliens, monsters, myths, all of that. And that's maybe for our better judgment. Maybe we don't really need to know. And maybe they'll keep us so distracted watching stupid ghost shows that we don't notice that they're poisoning our water with fluoride and that the Fukushima spill is creeping into Hawaii and California and its dangerous levels are affecting fish, food, and people. And the president can do stupid things, but we're so distracted with our entertainment that nobody notices what's really going on in the real world, which is the danger. And again, I hate politics. I hate talking politics, but I think that sometimes there is other things at play here, and it's easier to keep us placated and stupid than it is to, fully realize just what kind of world we're living in.
I never looked at it from that perspective, but boy, I almost let myself. That was so funny. Oh my goodness! Everybody who had my camera on is actually there.
Yeah, think about how we've been stripped of some basic principles and things that are our God, human-given life rights, and nobody says anything about it. We'll get a small contingent that'll bluster about it, but it just seems to fade away. And, we have wars that break out, and we're fighting in this war because there's weapons of mass destruction. Oh, I guess there wasn't. Okay, let's go on. What are we doing next anyway? Well, we're so busy with our nose buried into our Kindles and into our iPods and into our tablets and computer screens and Facebook and MySpace and Twitter and Pinterest and all of these different things that we're blinded. We don't even pay attention to what's going on around us in the real world. Or we do, and we get so easily distracted by the flickering lights of whatever's coming up next on our stupid Facebook that we're onto that. And I think it's a funny social experiment. And I think it's funny how something will be really hot and piss people off a lot. And you'll see people fighting vim and vigor over it for like 2 or 3 days on Facebook, and then that, like, it never happened. And people are on to something else, and they're on to something else. And it's just this weird social experiment. Like I said, I don't want to sound like some kind of paranoid delusion who sees a conspiracy and everything. But I'll tell you, the more I watch what's going on in the world, the more I start thinking that there's, we're just becoming a stupider country and a stupider world, and we're not, we're de-evolving, and and then you want me to worry about paranormal unity. I just don't see it ever happening because I watch the way the world works, and I watch people that I thought were dear friends of mine flip on a dime if they think that they could get money or fame over something. And people that I loved like brothers and sisters that I don't even talk to in this field anymore because I realize how dirty a lot of people are in this field. You know, it's kind of like the same lines of haunted locations. How haunted is a location if you walk out and there's a gift shop? Should we be taking a serious look at that first? You know, is this really a haunted spot, or is it a destination spot that, you know, remember, nobody wanted to have a haunted hotel before. Nobody wanted a haunted hotel because that's bad business. Now everybody's got a haunted hotel, and you can buy T-shirts on the way out to prove it. And, you know, it's kind of part of our lexicon now. It's part of what makes people excited, and what do they want to see? They want to have these weird experiences that they can't explain. And there are some locations that have been busted cheating and doing stupid stuff. And you know, here's what I tell people too. If you're going to go out and investigate, be careful, because it's not even the ghosts you have to be aware of. It's the human factor. It's the weird people that are out there doing stupid things and allowing you into their buildings without telling you that it's riddled with asbestos and black mold. And I'm watching people that I love dearly get very, very sick now and watching their lives fall apart. Well, it must be demonic because we're involved in the paranormal. Or maybe it could be that we're all in there huffing unbelievable amounts of asbestos and unbelievable amounts of black mold and other nasty irritants, and that's affecting a lot of people. I do think you need to start to be careful, and you need to start asking questions, and maybe even start asking the questions of the counties. Hey, you know, we're looking at going to XYZ location, and I'm just wondering, has there been any kind of health restraints put on this building? And you would be amazed at how many of the haunted locations that are out there right now that are fully functioning and taking hundreds of thousands of dollars a year are actually behind the scenes. The government's trying to shut them down because they're not safe. They're dealing with all of this nastiness with asbestos and black molds and other gross things that are going on in there, and it's not a safe environment. And that's what I think, that might be the ugly legacy of ghost hunting, is all of us running around in buildings, you know, where we shouldn't be because there's a lot more dangers than a ghost or two.
Definitely. I think everybody needs to think about it. You know, you got to be safe because otherwise you're going to become one. So,
that's right.
You know, think beforehand for sure. But, you know, I mean, I guess the whole idea of para-unity is a beautiful thing. Sure. It might never happen. I'm sure it probably never will happen. It'd be like, you know, Can we all just get along? But the reality
nobody can get along now. Nobody. I mean, look at religion is supposed to be a peaceful thing, and look at how many people are killed in the name of religion.
Oh yeah,
right. And not that I'm saying anybody's dying for paranormal, right? Nobody's dying for the paranormal, but you know they're besmirching each other. They're ruining careers and lives by spreading lies. You know how many places I've gone to, and the lady's like, I don't even know if I want anybody in here to investigate anymore, because the last team that came in here, they told me the team before that is known to steal things, and then this team that just was in here, I find out that one of their members is a pedophile, and this team has this going wrong, and that team has this going wrong, and you start realizing just who's out there. And man, and that's an important part. If you're putting together a team, I don't care who you are, how good you think you know people, you should definitely do a background check on every member of your team, because you don't need somebody being let into somebody else's home or business that has a rap sheet longer than your leg or has sexual convictions, and you know, and you don't have to know about it. And do you want those people around kids? Do you want those people around vulnerable women or men? You got to be careful. And man, just start looking. There's a lot of dirty stories about a lot of dirty people in this field that have been busted for doing really stupid things, and you got to start taking notice of that.
Yes, actually, that's kind of our theme for, like, I guess, I don't know, since the beginning of time, that, you know, be careful of who you let into your home to investigate. You know, It's not just joining your team, but, you know, as the people who are desperate, you know, the desperation and the people who are having activity and don't understand where it's coming from, they don't always take the time to investigate the team that they're going to have come investigate. And it's so important because just because they have a website doesn't mean that they're a reputable team. You know, just because they've got, 3 people on their team and the 3 people got spouses that say, yeah, they do a great job, that's not good enough. You're letting these people into your bedroom. You're letting them into your home. You're letting them in, all sorts of areas that are private to you. So it's very important to keep an eye out for that as well.
Yeah, I agree.
It's scary
totally.
that you have to go into all these types of precautionary measures to get help.
Right.
But I guess that's
not even help. There's not many people that are really calling and begging for an answer. They just want validation to know that they're not crazy.
A lot of the time.
That's the majority of the calls I get. Very few are calls of help.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe hear from 10 people a year that say, please, I need some help. And then I throw them to a couple of people I know and trust. And I'll tell you, that's the same way with psychics and mediums, There's this big debate. Should we trust psychics and mediums? Should psychics and mediums charge? Should this, should that? Here's the deal. And I'll put this addendum out there. Psychics and mediums should charge. Why? Because it's their time and their life that they're giving, and they're giving you something that you want. Why should you pay for cable? Because you want the entertainment value of cable. Well, why should you pay a medium or a psychic? Because they're giving you an hour or 2 of their time doing something that you couldn't do on your own. So I do believe that. But I say you should also talk to references. You should talk to people or read sites and find out about these psychics. Now, listen, you're never going to please everybody. So out of 100 people that you do a reading for, you're going to have 4 or 5 that are just going to hate it no matter what. But if the majority, if you can find, 30 great reviews on a guy and 3 bad ones or 5 bad ones, that might be something worth investigating and checking it out. People come to me all the time, well, who do you trust for readings? My favorite mediums in the world, Michael and Marty Perry. They can do it over the phone. They can do it in person. They're amazing. And I just can't, I've never sent one person to them that hasn't walked away blown away. And it's not all generalization crap, and it's not all just fluff. As a matter of fact, they record their session, and they give you the recording of the session so that you have it to keep and hear, or at least they used to. So, you can actually go and validate a lot of the information that you get on there. But I hear them pull bits of information out that there's no way you should know. It's not like, oh, yeah, Niki, your grandfather's here, and he used to drive a car, right? Yeah, right, because I see him driving a car. Really, everybody drove a car. They're like, I see him driving. Niki, I see, does this make sense to you? I see a green pickup truck with a pink door, and I get this feeling of anger, like it really pissed off your grandfather that this green car had a pink door, and you're like, yes, he had an accident. They could never find the right replacement door, so they had to put this stupid pink door on there, and it frustrated. And when they can pull that kind of information out, that blows me away. But Michael and Marty Perry are extremely good. Like I said, I never hear any complaints about them ever when they do this. Joe Who out of Chicago is another guy who people line up for and absolutely love the readings that he does, and he's a voice psychic and medium. He actually picks up on the voice, your voice, and he can tell you information about you that you need to know. So joewho.com. Michael and Marty are at spiritart.com. Spiritart.com. Chris Fleming is another good friend of mine. Chip Coffey, another good friend of mine. People absolutely love them, and I've seen them do amazing readings for people. Amy Lynn from Loving Light Insights, she's great and has really knocked me over with the work that she does. So, there's a handful of people I really do trust. There's a lot I've seen out there that I think are charlatans and fakes and frauds, and I watch them make money hand over fist, and, what can you do? I tell people, buyer beware. It's like the show we did the other day on the Skype exorcist. Some people are livid with the fact that this guy's charging to do exorcisms over the phone through Skype. Well, I have a feeling that, if the people weren't stupid enough to blow their money on that, they're going to find something else stupid to blow their money on. So does that mean that this person should be taking advantage? If it's not them, it's going to be somebody. And I can't say definitely that this is a scam, and if people feel that they're getting the results, whether it's a placebo effect or not, who am I? It's not my job to police people. I don't want the government telling me how to run my life. I don't want, people being the paranormal police and telling us who can and can't investigate and who can and can't do psychic readings. I do think there should be more stringent rules like there is in Europe for being a medium and a psychic. I think that you should definitely have a lot more that you have to go through before you just hang a shingle on the wall and say you are one. Because when we started the show 9 years ago, I can count on one hand the quote-unquote psychic and mediums I know. Now, everybody I bump into is a sensitive and a psychic and a medium and an empath. And do I think that they've all had this awakening, or do I just think that they're over-judging their own abilities? Yeah, probably. But that's
definitely. Well, it looks like we're actually out of time. I'm so sorry. We're out of time. Everyone can catch you on Darkness Radio Monday through Friday. And then tonight you're going to be on Coast to Coast.
Yep, I'll be hosting Coast to Coast.
How can they listen?
Yeah, just go to coasttocoastam.com, and that'll give you a list of stations, times all around the United States and around the world that you can listen to the show. Otherwise, you can just go to darknessradio.com and click on our live stream link tonight at midnight Central Time till 4 a.m., and you can stream the show right from our website.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We want to have you come back on, some other time when you're feeling better and stuff like that.
I appreciate that.
And good luck tonight.
Thank you.
I'll be listening.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much
Thank you,
for
ladies.
coming on.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us in chat and joining us for the show. See you next week.